it's about taking a leap of faith. So it's about kind of taking that jump into that next place. It's about that, you're jumping from here to here. The jump is being floating in that gap in between, and you know where you want to land. You know kind of how you would like to land, but you don't know for sure if you're going to. You're just crossing your fingers and you're running, and you got to just make that leap and trust that the universe will catch you. Trust that, if you lean in good faith, that good things will happen, and to just trust intuition.
Today's guest is Mars Hendrik, a bilingual singer, songwriter, performer, motivational speaker, and music industry coach. With roots in Costa Rica, he is based in Connecticut and just released his new single, The Jump, the first from his forthcoming album, Karma. Welcome, Mars.
Hello. Thank you for having me. Excited to be
Wow,
here
what
today.
an exciting intro. I'm really looking forward to this conversation. Let's jump right in. What is one of the most courageous things you have done?
The most courageous things that I have done, I think, showing up every day and being vulnerable, putting art out there, my face, my content, for the world. That's, a daily courageous step forward. If I have to think of a particular moment, it would be my 10-day sit that I did last year. Was my first attempt at doing a meditation alone for 10 days. I was out in Costa Rica.
Wow.
So, no guitar, no music, no distractions, no TV, no real much of anything for 10 days. I was definitely afraid before I walked in.
And you went straight in for the 10 days. You didn't ease yourself in.
Yeah, I had done other sits throughout the years that weren't as long, started as a day, 3 and 5 and things like that. So that was my first attempt at something that long. So in a way I'd eased myself in, but yeah.
And how did you get on? How did you find it?
I found it really fascinating. I think one of the things that I was contemplating the most in that time period was the idea of boredom and what purpose it might serve, and why do we experience boredom, because I believe that everything does have a purpose. And it was challenging at first, but it was an incredibly rewarding experience, because eventually, you kind of give into it. When you are in the moment, it only feels long when you're thinking about how long you've been there and how long you got left. But if you truly are immersive in the moment that you find yourself in, it doesn't feel long. You forget. You're not thinking about it. So a lot of the suffering that comes from that is literally the mind painting the story of what it is. And then we believe whatever story we tell ourselves, and then that creates so much. So it was a very insightful experience for sure.
Wow, sounds actually a beautiful process to actually go through, and allowing yourself just to be.
Yeah. Incredibly powerful.
Yeah, I bet. So what took you on your journey of being a bilingual singer and songwriter? Let's just break that down. So bilingual, tell me more. What languages?
So I also speak Spanish. Um, didn't always. I was born in the U.S. At around 12 years old, I moved to Costa Rica, although I had visited before, but I didn't really speak Spanish yet. So moving there, started learning Spanish. But of course, my neighbors, friends from school, different people around me all did speak Spanish, so I couldn't always communicate. Couldn't always talk to everybody, and I feel that one, that introduced me to being okay with silence, which allowed me later to help with the meditation, but also music. That's when I found music. I didn't really play any instruments or do anything like that, before moving to Costa Rica. So I
Okay.
found that music was just such a great way for me to communicate with other people and yeah, to express myself in a way that, you know, for me was then and still is beyond language. Yeah.
Definitely. I mean, and you write your own songs.
Yeah.
Do you find that difficult or naturally that comes to you?
Yeah, honestly, I never thought too much of it originally when I started. I just started playing and immediately as soon as I could start playing a couple chords, I mean, I was in it trying to write, you know, different
Mm.
songs and coming up with stuff and I never thought it would go this far, you know. It was always when I started it just originally wasn't thinking about anything, you know. It was just it was very instinctual, I would say.
But that's interesting because this day and age, how do you find the market? There's a lot of people that are doing the same thing, but everyone is unique. So, kind of, what got you going on the type of music you do? Tell me more about that.
It's been also a long process to get to what my sound is now. When I started playing, I guess there was like a lot of punk influences, bands or songs that I thought were easier to play, you know, kind of three chord songs or just whatever I could find that
Mm,
it was like almost like I was copying some of my favorite artists when I would go to write. I'd be like, well, let me write a song like this one and take a song and kind of dissect it and make my own version of something like that. But then from there, I got into Sublime, who, you know, mixed in reggae with punk and R&B and hip hop and all these different things. And I found that incredible. And
mm,
learned a bunch of Sublime songs. That became part of my sound. I loved the way that he sang. But eventually, as I started, you know, gathering more and more influences and letting them all kind of touch my music, my first album, Explore Your Mind, ended up being a combination of when I felt like I really started to find a sound that was unique to me, mixing Latin music and jazz and metal and all kinds of different genres, you know, and hip
mm,
hop or whatever made sense for the song. And I just loved writing stuff that it makes it hard to answer what is this. I tend to enjoy music that the harder it is to answer that question of what am I listening to, the more I enjoy it. Now, yeah, these newer songs, you know, you'll sometimes you'll point to a genre like, oh, this part sounds like blank,
yeah.
but the song as a whole, not really. So I love, you know, blending genres together and mixing them up and trying to just create new sounds, or even if they sound like older sounds, how do we mix it up? How do I sing in a way that you don't usually hear in something like this? Or, you know, what instrumentation do you usually not find here, etc., and just finding new ways to play with even old stuff.
Wow, what a talent. What a talent. And I've got to ask you, who is your favorite artist? Can you possibly name one or what kind of music? I mean, you've just named some there, but
Mhm.
like what really kind of you really go to if you need music? Other
Oh,
than your own, obviously.
yeah. A very interesting question because I listen to different artists for different reasons. It's hard to have an overall favorite.
Mhm.
As just a person or an avatar, you know, Bob Marley was always a huge influence on me.
Mm,
Um, just I was listening to Bob before I could walk and talk, I think, because my dad loves Bob Marley and was always
yeah.
playing Bob. Besides that, just him as a person, since, you know, his music was always so much more about spirituality. It was always
Mm,
more about his connection with, you know, the divine and him communicating and bringing people together and sharing messages of peace and love and wisdom. That to me really is what it's about because for me too it's such an intersection of spirituality and my life that the two are inseparable, like they're not one thing and the other thing, they're, you know, symbiotic.
mhm,
So
mhm, mm,
that's one reason I love Bob, even though, you know, I don't listen I actually don't listen to as much music as people would think. I listened
Oh.
to a comedian in an interview the other day, one of my favorites, and he was like, I don't listen to stand up. I kind of like is almost to have a clear head to not be influenced when I start listening, but I do
Mm.
sometimes. So it's funny. Different, like I said, artists will inspire me for different reasons. I love Polyphia, which is a band that's all instrumental. The
Mhm.
guitar work in that band is incredible, and I listen for the guitar playing. Vocalists, I listen to different people. Right now, I love Bournes, Garrett Bournes, amazing singer and songwriter, and definitely has had a more recent influence on me. So yeah, that's always changing. So I guess but Bob has always been a constant as far as an influence.
Yeah, I love Bob's music too.
Yes.
So sometimes I'm assuming you have to be really vulnerable to get the words out. And how does that play in actually writing a song? Because, like, your emotions, your courage, things like that. I mean, a lot of the words you write are meaningful, like you said, they're spiritual as well. Just run me through a bit of that, please.
Yeah, that has been a learning curve too, because, you know, I guess when I first started writing songs, I would hide a lot of the emotion behind humor. You know, some of my
Hmm.
songs were silly, they were funny, they didn't like, very lighthearted.
Hmm.
My first album was emotional, but it was emotional in the sense of like an existential crisis that I was having. So the emotion is ah, you know, that's the emotion you get. But I feel like this newest album is the most emotional and vulnerable, the real,
Hmm.
you know, that you can really and I think it's just it comes from doing it so long that now I I want to share that. Yeah, you have to want to. You know, it is vulnerable. You are putting out there, but I've come to appreciate and learn what that can do for other people. So what
Hmm.
I've noticed with some of these songs too is the very heavy emotional ones. I've played them for certain people, you know, and some of the reactions I've seen, you know, I've had some people cry to some of these songs. And what I realized is all of these emotions, they're all emotions that we've all experienced at some time or another. And through this music, through any music, if it evokes some kind of emotion in you, it's helping you pull it to the surface. For
Yes.
me, I'm so present with them that I kind of just, the song, you know, comes as like an alchemy. You know, I just take that energy and transmute it into this thing. But if that's an emotion that the listener has buried in them, it will bring it right up to the surface and allow them to experience it for themselves. And so really it's not even so much as someone getting in there and feeling how I felt in a moment, which they get that opportunity. It's that, you know, they're reaching into some part of themselves and hopefully being able to heal or experience an emotion that maybe is intense or they are hiding from or yeah, it always is changing.
I love that. Love
Yeah.
that. So that nicely goes on to tell me about your new released single, The Jump. What is the song about and why is it called Jump?
the jump. The jump is about, I guess, divine timing and
Hmm.
trusting the universe, trusting yourself, trusting love, following your heart. It's really called the jump because when you're listening to the lyrics, it's about taking a leap of faith. So
Okay.
it's about kind of taking that jump into that next place. It's
Mm.
about that, you know, you're jumping from here to here. The jump is being floating in that gap in between, and you know where you want to land, you know kind of how you would like to land, but you don't know for sure if you're going to. You know, you're just
Mm.
crossing your fingers and you're running, and you got to just make that leap, you know, and trust that the universe will catch you. Trust that, you know, if you lean in good faith, that good things will happen, and to just trust intuition.
Wow, absolutely love that. I'm definitely going to go to listen to it. I know
Awesome.
that for sure. When you're not making music, you are a motivational speaker who specializes in coaching others on how to tap into their power and of their potential. Tell me more about that.
Yeah, so that's something I'm super passionate about. I just like, because it intersects all of my favorite things, right?
Mm,
Spirituality, psychology, music for a lot of the people that I work with. But not always music, but in a lot of cases, they're people
mhm,
who also want to, move forward in their music and they don't know what the next step is for them, right? Like, not everybody wants to be an artist where it's like an icon or, kind of, no, not everyone wants to do it in the same way,
yeah,
I
absolutely.
was talking to a guy yesterday. Really, what he wanted to do and was resisting was he wanted to start like kind of like a church choir and started organizing like kind of larger music based events and these
Mhm,
kind of things where it's like he's like, I have no interest really in making music and putting it on Spotify and doing this whole thing, but so had his own set of challenges. I just very much enjoy the whole world of, self help. I have
yes.
had different coaches that have helped me in my life,
Mhm,
and
mm,
I just like being part of that whole chain, you could call it. I love seeing somebody move from
mm,
being in one spot and then slowly over time watching them align, because a lot of times people have the answers already in them, you know? So a lot of what I'm doing is just helping them uncover and discover it for themselves, because it's in there. And
mm,
maybe what they need is just someone, again, motivating them or pushing them or helping them kind of create a more powerful vision for themselves, one that's compelling and one that actually is pulling them in some direction. I feel like a lot of people, they have an idea of what they want. It's more of a feeling of what they want,
mm,
and sometimes it can be a little too ambiguous. They're like, yeah, something like this, or it's like, I want to be famous. Well, what does that mean? At what point do you decide like, okay, yeah, that's enough? Is it at a million streams or is it at a meeting X amount of people? Like, that's arbitrary, right? It's like, what point, how specific can we make these goals and how can we work towards them slowly and whatever someone's going through. And
mm,
another thing that I've realized is that in these sessions is that everything is connected. So someone might be doing everything great for their music career and they don't know why they're not moving forward. And like in one case, one guy I was working with, it was the people around him, like his roommate and other things that were unrelated. But again, everything's connected. You only
mhm,
have so much energy, and so being able to tie a whole person's life together where everything is helping everything else. What you eat, what you do, how you exercise, what people you're around and near, what your community looks like. Everything you put out, what you put in, and that's not just food. It's energy, it's people, it's
mm,
situations, and I think that it's cool to. It's also intentional when you show the universe I'm ready, and have someone like a coach or have someone at your side that's just cares and is pushing you and can have a shared vision. It's just powerful for manifestation too when you have more than one person looking to manifest something specific at the same time. It just seems to happen a lot quicker.
yeah, absolutely. I could not agree more with you. I'm a transformation coach, and absolutely. And it is about the energy, it's the feeling. It's not just like what's going on in your head. That's probably the least place to look.
Yeah.
I couldn't agree more. And you coach musicians and songwriters on how to succeed in the music business. Tell me more about that. That must be challenging at times. How does that get for, your clients?
Yeah. Like I said, but I find it interesting because at the same
Mm,
time, I've learned through this that everyone, you know,
hmm.
they're looking for different things.
Yeah,
Not
absolutely.
everyone cares about the same stuff. Um,
Hmm.
So it's just funny to notice, some people really only care about making music and having it go online. They don't want to play anything live shows. Some people are exactly the opposite of that. I don't know. Whatever challenge comes up, I think it's a mindset thing,
Yeah.
right? Like, no obstacle is too big. Nothing is that challenging unless you believe it. If you have a narrative where, oh, this is hard. This is so hard. It's so
Mm,
hard. Then it is, right? Because now you believe it, one, that it's difficult. You create that reality through your beliefs. So, when I go into working with a client, I don't even know what the challenges are yet because they all have different challenges.
yeah.
But in my head, from my side already, having developed that mindset, it's, this is going to be easy. We're going to knock this out of the park. We're going to figure out a way through it. It literally doesn't matter what it is, because if you're on the phone with me right now, it's because you want change. You want
Mhm.
something else to happen, right? So some part of you is ready for whatever it is. I also don't believe in coincidences. So
Yes.
by the time that we're already on a session and I got you on the phone, doesn't even matter what it is, because we'll figure out a way through it. Because I feel like at that point, a lot of the thing about art too in music is that it's a soul calling. If your
Mm.
soul is pulling you towards it, you can't resist that call. You can try. Probably won't be fun. It'd probably be a lot more fun to
Absolutely.
follow it. But yeah.
Mm. Absolutely. When it's natural, why
Mhm.
go against it? Because
Exactly.
it's going to make a whole load more trouble for you. It's going to be more difficult. Absolutely. So
Yeah.
tell me about your forthcoming album called Karma and why Karma?
Karma. Well, it has to do a lot with the themes of the whole record.
Okay.
Honestly, a lot of the songs are about flow of energy, or things coming back and forth. I think
Mhm.
a lot of people don't fully understand what karma is, although they have some ideas. Like, they'll, I think for a lot of people it's mostly the idea of do good, good things happen to you; do bad, bad things happen to you. Which, that's one way to look at it for sure. Another way is, karma. There's karmic things that we move through, that we're
Mhm.
paying from our ancestry. A lot of us are still breaking through chains and patterns from our great 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 grandparents, and we have karma that we need to work through as a collective, as human beings, as a whole. We have karma that we carry with us, every day. We have,
Mhm.
karmic connections with other people, mirrors of ourselves, where we're learning to work through and understand different aspects of ourself, right? And this is all karma, right? This is all stuff that we are meant to work through to gain deeper insight into ourselves and into each
Mm.
other. And that's kind of like the whole theme of the entire record, really.
Wow. Love that. Absolutely
Yeah.
love that.
Yeah.
So, Mars, what would you say is one of the most important lessons you've learnt over your life so far?
I guess I have learned to worry less. Learn it doesn't help, or maybe it does. I read a joke that was like, worrying works because 99% of the stuff I worry about never even actually happens, so it must be working.
Like that.
Yeah. So I've learned to worry less. That doesn't mean that bad things won't happen, things will happen, but worrying about it doesn't seem to help
Mm.
either. So
Mm.
I've learned to just trust more, and
Mm.
let go more. And yeah, I guess that's been one of the bigger lessons in my life is, I've always wanted to control everything, you know,
Yeah.
in my life, and what goes on, and you can't anyways. So, you'll drive yourself crazy trying to control everything. I think one of the biggest lessons that I've learned in my life is just a lesson of letting go. And I'm still learning that lesson, and I will continue to learn that lesson over and over again. I can't say I've fully learned that lesson, but I'm learning it, and to get better with it and at it as time goes on. But that's an ongoing lesson for me.
Absolutely. Beautiful. Thank you for sharing that. So, what would you say to anyone that wants to start singing and songwriting? What can they start doing if they want to get into the music business? They feel they want to do something.
I would say you gotta just start, just doing it. If you want to sing, even karaoke tracks at home, pull them up on YouTube, record yourself. If you want to just sing, I could not sing. I wish you could ask anyone who's related to me, my family, and they would tell you I was tone deaf, could not sing, but I learned. And that's the cool thing. It's like your voice is an instrument. You can get better. You can learn. Actually, amazing how much a person can improve at those things. Some people are naturally gifted singers, and that's awesome. Even they can get better, but anyone can if they want it and they're willing to put in the work that it takes to do so. So I think that, again, just practicing, you know, there's never a perfect time sometimes. I think it doesn't matter how old you are. I've had guitar students that started learning in their 70s, learning how to play
Wow.
guitar, and I've had kids who were 7 and everybody in between. So it doesn't matter, that I like to say, that age in this doesn't really matter. Even people who have become famous, I'm pretty sure there's a few that, more than a few, who started later in their 40s, 50s, and still found even commercial success, having not even began to learn an instrument until, that age. So literally anything's possible. If your soul is calling you towards it, you should follow it. If you just put yourself out there for yourself, you have to be vulnerable first towards yourself, right? You got to just be like, I want to do this, and just do it. The letting go part, right? Letting go of expectations, letting go of everything, and just doing it out of pure joy. At first, it needs to bring you joy, and it'll bring you everything else after if you want it and if it's in alignment with you and your life. But number one is that, like, if you're just looking into getting into songwriting and singing, then you're not ready to talk about turning it into a career yet, right? You're just learning about it. So get into it and enjoy it. Like, have fun. That's like the most important part, is have fun. It's very simple, but
Absolutely.
it's the most important part.
Absolutely. I couldn't agree with you more. And I love the fact that you said your voice is an instrument. I've never actually ever heard that before. And that's powerful for me. Thank you.
Yeah. Back it up with that. It definitely is. It's crazy how much, a person's voice can transform.
I won't be doing any singing. I don't think the world's ready for my singing.
Not ready for your singing?
I'm terrible. I don't have any music. I even clap out a tune, so I'm not really musical at all.
Oh, man.
Yeah. I know my children say talent to not clap in tune. They've all played instruments. They're all musical, but that missed me. So where can the listeners find you online, your songs? What's your website, Mars?
So you can find me on the blackgirlrecords.co website. My music is on all streaming platforms, so you can find new album Karma, you can find my latest single The Jump, all of this you can find on Spotify, Apple Music, YouTube, all the good stuff. And you can follow me specifically on Instagram. I'm always posting on there videos, motivational content, music, and I'm just Mars.Hendrik, on Instagram.
Wow. Thank you for sharing your insightful wisdom and knowledge with us today. And by doing so, you have helped so many others to make a difference. I'd really like to acknowledge you for that, Mars Hendrik.
Thank you so much. Thank you for those words. Thank you for having me today and inviting me to have this experience with you. Hopefully, we can do it again sometime.
Yeah, I absolutely loved it. Thank you. And I must say, you're the first magician I have had on this show.
Oh, awesome. Well, I'm
So,
honored.
yes, thank you. So, with that said, we are all about Create the Courage to be Fearless podcast here. What is your definition of courage?
The definition of courage is the ability to walk through fear.
Mm.
You know, I think so many people conflate courageousness with fearlessness, and uh, there is no courage without fear. You know, if
Mm.
you're fearless, you'll never have courage because you don't need it. If you're fearless, then you'll never ever have to be courageous. I think it's acknowledging the fact that we're all afraid sometimes and we all have different things that we're afraid of, to and sometimes the thing that you want most in your life is on the other side of fear, and you have to be courageous to get there and push through that. So I would say my definition is the ability to see through and walk through fear consciously as a choice. That's what I would define as courage.